West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Coming up after news and comment, Supreme Court back allowing Donald Trump's ICE raids in California to continue. And the progressives losing their mind over this. Anyone who's going to look like Latino is going to be arrested. Anyone who speaks Spanish could be arrested. No, that's not the case. We'll give you the latest news on this and how ICE is firing back up its raids and deportations out in Los Angeles. Now it's time, though, for news and comment with Mr. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. Tuesday, 58 and a little cloudy out there. Denver expecting a high of 85 today up and down the Front Range. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
And obviously that happened in August in Charlotte, and there's a theme across the country, dangerous criminals being let out multiple times. In Charlotte, Irina Zarutska stabbed by a criminal released from jail 14 times, as we talked about on Monday. 47 addressed it on Monday.
And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. And the actions that we take are nothing. This cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon.
And here in Colorado, Weld County Sheriff Steve Reams warning the public that 21-year-old Bisa Ephraim could be dangerous to the community. He was released from jail because he was ruled mentally incompetent to stand trial. He was arrested on suspicion to attempt second-degree murder and assault. Reams says state lawmakers here in Colorado create laws that allow violent criminals to slip through the cracks, and sheriffs like Reams have to release them from jail. House Bill 1034, once again, is the reason, signed by Governor Polis. Republican State Senator Barb Kirkmeyer expected to announce that she'll be running for governor this afternoon. The Weld County State Senator also filed paperwork for her campaign Monday. Kirkmeyer served as a Weld County commissioner before being elected to the state Senate in 2020. Lone Tree Police asking for help with an ongoing homicide investigation. Officers were asked to do a welfare check at an apartment complex on Park Meadows Drive Thursday. The officers found 57-year-old Kathleen Mayo dead inside the building. Anyone with information about her death is being asked to call the department's tip line. Homeland Security is starting an immigration operation in Chicago. Operation Midway Blitz will target the criminal illegal aliens who have flocked to Chicago and Illinois. Democrats hate this, and here is more from DJT.
That's the kind of world I want. That's the kind of world you deserve.
Oh, wait a minute. It's Joe Biden from 1989. Looky, looky.
In a nutshell, the president's plan doesn't include enough police officers to catch the violent thugs, not enough prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time. We disagree with the president's decision to cut back on our previous commitment to protect against drugs coming across the border, to cut the Customs Service, the Coast Guard, and the Border Patrol. We think we should do more to stem the flow of drugs across our borders, and we think we should go one step further. Let's go after the drug lords where they live.
Wow. Wow, sounds like common sense from Sleepy Joe. House Democrats on the Oversight Committee releasing new material, trying like Hades to link 47 to Epstein. Problem is, since you know what, the Russian hoax, they really don't have any credibility at all. Epstein's estate begins turning over files to Congress under subpoena, with the committee unveiling a birthday greeting allegedly sent from DJT to Epstein inside the outline of a nude woman. The signature.
Did you see the drawing?
Yeah, it's so
so
great.
Stupid. It's so stupid that this is, like, when the Wall Street Journal first came out with it and it said Donald Trump has done a nude drawing, I was like, whoa, jeez, I didn't expect him to do that. And then they released it yesterday, and I'm like, that's not a nude drawing. It's the outline of a woman and parts of her, the curves of her chest. That's it.
Couple of lines, couple of squiggly
middle school
lines.
Boys draw more accurate figures of nude women than that was. Now,
no doubt.
The other thing too is, did he do it? Maybe. I mean, I'm kind of like, it was 2003. Donald Trump was a different guy back then. You got Clinton, you got Trump. He's on the cover of Playboy magazine. And none of this is new to anybody.
No, it isn't.
So you're sitting back here going, okay, the Wall Street Journal's got a major scoop. And then they release that, and you're like,
yep.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously? Oh, and he knew Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, so did half the...
all the wealthy people, all the elite. Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
So, golly. And then, the whole, he's going to be in the files. He's going to be in the files. And I'm like, we went through 4 years of the Biden administration picking through line items in his business to sue him over. You think they would have had something a little bigger? Come on.
They would have had it 8 years or 9 years ago.
Yes.
10 years ago.
And
instead
Jason
of
Crow's
coming
out
up
there
with
going,
the Russia.
Release the files. Release.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, so
the drawing
big
did come
nothing
from
burger.
Yeah.
Big nothing.
It is a big nothing burger, but the drawing did come from the Epstein estate. So the validity of it, I think, is not really in question, because if it was planted based on that, it would have to be planted before Donald Trump ever started his first presidential run. So if it's something that Democrats or some sort of nefarious group planted, they would have had to know the future. But again, I don't think this is a big deal. This is, to me, a nothing burger. This doesn't change anything. This isn't unusual, and it's not a naked picture of a woman. He didn't draw a naked picture of a woman.
No,
so that's it. Yeah,
it's like goodness.
And also though, it appears that when Donald Trump said that it was fake, that appears also not to be true, because he filed a lawsuit against it as well, claiming that it was fake.
That's where I go.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I looked at the signatures. Did you look at the signatures?
Yeah, the signatures don't match.
I mean,
well,
kind of.
I don't know.
Stuff that he signed that was more contemporaneous, it's clear. It's closer to what he's signing then. Taking what he's signing now versus what he's signing then, given the change in age, there is going to be a variant. But stuff that he signed then, it's closer to. But again, let's say that he did do it. So what?
Yeah,
Let's
that's
say he
kind of
didn't do
where
it.
I'm at.
So
Well,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Absolutely.
all right.
I mean, I just the idea of fighting back on this. Who cares? I mean, if this is what the Democrats and liberals have to throw at Donald Trump, that years ago he wrote this picture. So what?
He
Don't care.
used the word enigma. He
Yeah.
also used the word a wonderful thing. Clearly, it's his. I mean,
Yeah.
what a waste
And
of
we all-
time.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, we also know he threw him out
Correct.
of the club. We know that. And we've heard it over and over and over. And he ended the relationship because of what he was doing. So he knew he was a scumbag at that point. So, I mean, yeah, it could be his signature. It doesn't look like the one that he's using now. But, yeah, it's not a very good drawing. I'll draw you guys something in the break, and you can tell me if mine's a better drawing. Hey, this...
He's going to draw something phallic. This is not good.
I'm going back
Be in
to
trouble
Billy's.
again.
I'm going back to Billy's camp days in the woods.
Yes, we're going to be in trouble again. I'm going to have another meeting with HR. It's all my fault.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, this is great stuff to me. Billionaire Mark Cuban, he thinks we should keep on sending money to Ukraine. Just keep on pumping the money. And Tucker Carlson says, hey, how about you send them some money?
Mark, let me ask you a question. What's your take on whether we should be sending money to Ukraine or not? Were you in favor of that?
Man, they need it.
I mean, honestly,
I
don't have a good answer. You know, I can make an argument both ways, and half my family is Ukrainian from my grandparents. And so, you know, personally, I think we should help, but I don't have a studied answer for you.
How much money have you sent to Ukraine?
None.
Oh, so what do you mean by we? You're the one whose family's from Ukraine. Like, why don't you send them $1 billion?
Because I'm trying to fix healthcare.
Why don't you fix their healthcare if you're like so deep? If you think we need to help, why don't you start? How about you first? Yeah. I notice that's never like even an option for anybody. It's like, we need to help. That's not what charity is. Forcing other people to help is not charity.
Here's the
it's
good
vanity.
news.
I agree with that.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Send the money, Cuban. He's trying to help healthcare.
Watch the Democrats in Colorado give up their Tabor refund.
Yes, exactly. Tennessee will mandate gun safety training for public school students. Students will learn basic gun safety practices like how to handle finding a gun and general firearm safety. The curriculum will be carried out by each school district and will not involve real guns or ammunition. I think that's a great idea. Apple unveiling its thinnest iPhone ever today as it rolls out the new iPhone 17, 17 Pro, and 17 Pro Max.
They're bringing all-out blitz. They're expecting the ball to come out quicker than what it did. McCarthy. Pass is caught. Spinning grab by Aaron Jones. And somehow, some way, the Minnesota Vikings are on top.
And the Vikings come back to beat the Bears last night on Monday Night Football, 27-24. 55 in Louisville, 56 in Arvada, and 58 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a pleasant early Tuesday morning. We'll be looking at readings generally upper 50s, maybe in a couple low 60s. Highs and lows a little above average for this Tuesday through Thursday, as we'll see highs in the mid and upper 80s. Can't rule out a low 90, lows mid and upper 50s. Few hit and miss thunderstorms. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Headline coming from USA Today. And a win for Trump. Supreme Court lifts restrictions on L.A. immigration. Stops. A divided Supreme Court on September 8th, yesterday, said the Trump administration can resume for now the indiscriminate immigration-related stops in Los Angeles that sparked protests and charges of racial profiling. Over the objections of 3 liberal justices, the court blocked a judge's ruling that federal agents need a reasonable suspicion that the person they're questioning is in the country illegally. U.S. District Judge Frimpong of the Central District of California said the government can't rely solely on the person's ethnicity, what language they speak, whether they're at a particular location, such as a pickup site for day laborers, or what type of work they do. Frimpong had issued that temporary order in July in response to a class action lawsuit filed by a group of Latinos, including U.S. citizens caught up in the 2025 ICE raids in Southern California. The administration questioned the legal right of the challengers to sue and said the judge improperly elevated the Fourth Amendment's low bar for reasonable suspicion for searches and seizures. That means the government isn't doing anything wrong, the Justice Department said. In a region where a significant share of residents may be undocumented, the Justice Department told the Supreme Court reasonable suspicion to stop suspected illegal aliens will necessarily encompass a reasonable broad profile. The government estimated that 10% of the population in parts of Southern and Central California are undocumented illegal immigrants, which is why the Los Angeles area is a top enforcement priority. The Trump administration ramped up immigration raids across California starting in June, widening its focus from those with criminal records to a broader sweep for anyone in the country without authorization. The crackdown sparked protests, which Trump dispatched National Guard troops and Marines to quell. Lawyers for the challengers said numerous U.S. citizens and others who are in the country legally have been harmed, including some who suffered serious physical injuries, and people are afraid to leave their homes. The government's extraordinary claim that it can get very close to justifying a seizure of any Latino person in the Central District because of the asserted number of Latino people there who are not legally present is anathema to the Constitution, they told the Supreme Court. And more generally, the court has made clear that reasonable suspicion cannot arise from facts that would describe broad swaths of law-abiding population. In her dissent for the court's three liberals, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said the majority's decision is yet another grave misuse of our emergency docket. We should not live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work in a low-wage job, Sotomayor wrote. Rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost, I dissent, she wrote. The majority's brief and unsigned order did not include legal reasoning for the decision, but Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote to explain his view. Kavanaugh said that the Latinos challenging the stops have no good basis to believe they will be questioned again by law enforcement. And even if they did, he said, the government is likely to beat the legal challenge once it's been fully litigated. While ethnicity alone can't be the basis for reasonable suspicion, it can be relevant when considered with other factors, he said. Under this court's precedent, not to mention common sense, that was my favorite line, common sense, Kavanaugh wrote, those circumstances taken together can constitute at least reasonable suspicion of illegal presence in the United States. If the officers learn that the person they've stopped is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the country, he said, they promptly let the individual go. What's the big deal? Attorney General Pam Bondi called the decision a massive victory. Now ICE can continue carrying out roving patrols in California without judicial micromanagement, Bondi said on social media. But of course, as you can imagine, immigrant rights activists in Los Angeles are not happy, said it has renewed fears of aggressive immigration raids. Now, went through the decision, and I think Justice Kavanaugh is perfectly reasonable here. He said immigration officials have a job to do. Like, literally, that's their job, is to find people that are not in the country here legally. And we have a large population of people in these communities that are illegal immigrants. They tend to work a certain type of job. They tend to come from a certain place. And they tend to speak a certain language. So just putting that together in your mind and going out there and going, hey, do you happen to be here illegally? And they take off running, for instance? That is not unconstitutional. That is not an overreach of the executive branch. This is literally what immigration officials do. So I think the decision was right. Now, look, this was not a final U.S. Supreme Court constitutional decision. This was a shadow docket decision. And it had to do with the fact that the lower courts had stepped in to stop the executive branch from doing these raids. Okay? So lower court stepped in and said, put an injunction saying, no, you can't do these raids. And all the Supreme Court is saying is, well, there's a likelihood that the executive branch, Donald Trump's administration, could win these cases in court. So we're not going to allow an injunction to stop them across the country from doing this. You want to bring the case, you want to work its way up, you want to have a major U.S. Supreme Court decision on this, we can do it. That's not off the table. What the court said yesterday was that this injunction to stop the Trump administration from doing this shouldn't be in place because there's a strong likelihood the Trump administration could win. Bill, your thoughts on this decision?
Yeah, this worries me because how are we defining reasonable suspicion? That if we can, as the dissenters outlined, just assume reasonable suspicion from broad general characteristics of a demographic, that gets a little worrisome as far as, basically we're looking at the idea of stop and frisk, or even, I know people are going to hate this, but the idea of show me your papers. Prove to me that you are a citizen as you are wandering and walking around. There could be reasonable suspicion for just about anything at that point. It's the idea of if you're wandering around downtown on 16th Street Mall, should the police be able to stop and frisk you? There's a reasonable suspicion that crime will take place. There's a reasonable suspicion that people of certain demographics may do the crime, so should they just be stopped? The idea that what I'm worried about with this broad generalization is we are looking at a society where you are guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty. We are stopping these people because we are assuming that they, in a high likelihood, are illegal. So we have decided who they are before we contact them. That worries me. That worries me, especially when we're using things like skin color, language, and job where you work. That should be worrisome to everybody inside of America if those are the things that we can use to create a reasonable suspicion. That should be worrisome.
Brett Kavanaugh writes in his opinion, to stop an individual for brief questioning about immigration status, the government must have reasonable suspicion that the individual is illegally present in the United States. Reasonable suspicion is a lesser requirement than probable cause and considerably short of the preponderance of the evidence standard. Whether an officer has reasonable suspicion depends on the totality of the circumstance. Here, those circumstances include that there is an extremely high number and percentage of illegal immigrants in the Los Angeles area, that those individuals tend to gather in certain locations to seek daily work, that those individuals often work in certain kinds of jobs, such as day labor, landscaping, agriculture, and construction, that do not require paperwork and are therefore especially attractive to illegal immigrants, and that many of those illegally in the Los Angeles area come from Mexico or Central America and do not speak much English. To be clear, apparent ethnicity alone cannot furnish reasonable suspicion under this court's case law regarding immigration stops. However, he writes, it can be a relevant factor when considered along with other salient factors. So, Bill, because it's not necessarily an arrest, it's a reasonable suspicion to simply ask, does that change your opinion? I mean, they're not detaining them. They're not arresting them. They're not searching their cars. They're simply asking.
I feel like I have fallen through the looking glass because I'm having individuals that, and again, we had a phone call off the air. A woman didn't want to join us on the air, but say she didn't see anything wrong with the police stopping and asking you for your papers. What's wrong with that? Really? That now when we are out wandering around, you have to justify that you're an American citizen in the country, the land of the free? That's the issue that I've got, is the idea that we have all this idea of America being this land of freedom and opportunity. Yet now, to anybody that has a badge or is part of law enforcement or a federal task force like an ICE agent, we now have to prove that we're citizens. That at any point in time, they should be able to walk up to us for a reasonable suspicion and ask us to prove that we are in this country legally. That you have to prove and show the ID. Really? Seriously? That's okay. That again, the idea of the freedoms, that now we are saying that law enforcement should be able to come up to you and ask you at any point in time that you need to show them your ID and prove that you're a citizen of the U.S. because they don't think you are. That's where we're going. That's the idea behind here. That's the core idea. I understand that right now we're focusing on illegal immigrants, but there are other examples in which you, our listeners, might be in a situation or in a group in which the same thing could happen to you. Is that okay? Is that what we want? If you want, okay. But understand you're giving up some of your personal freedom. The idea that you have to justify who you are and prove you're a citizen because the assumption is here that you're not. That's why the police are stopping you.
Are you ignoring some of the realities on the ground, which is we have anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 million illegal immigrants that have come into this country. And as the Trump administration points out, tend to live in Los Angeles. So they've 10% of the population of a major city is illegal. We're not going around asking everybody, but we're using what Brett Kavanaugh says is common sense. This is where they tend to work. This is where they tend to come from. This is the type of language that they speak. And you have a responsibility. You've been tasked by our government legally to remove people from the country that are not here legally. And so you have the empowerment from the legislative branch with the laws that we've written to go remove people that are not in this country legally. They all tend to want to move to certain places, work certain jobs. This is just common sense. It's not purely based upon race. And plus, as people are pointing out here, there's plenty of other examples where in America, as an American citizen, the police have the right to stop and frisk you based upon reasonable suspicion, not necessarily probable cause. They're different legal hurdles. Your thoughts?
Again, I am curious why we are willing to relinquish some of our rights so quickly. And if we think that it's a great idea, okay, well, let's pick up something from a number of years ago when we were going through and coming out of some of the COVID lockdowns. There was a lot of consternation over people being profiled by the Department of Justice because they showed up at a school board meeting. There was reasonable suspicion based on threats that were being made to school board members about safety. People leaving messages and things about going to kill you, going to kill your family, going to bring the guns to the meetings. So should we have at that point stop frisks and demand everybody there for their papers? Would that have been reasonable? Well, the group that is talking about, oh my God, the Department of Justice is creating a list of concerned parents that just showed up at those school board meetings. I heard a lot about the Department of Justice overstepping our constitutional freedoms and our rights because they were allegedly creating a list of people that went to a school board meeting. Well, according to this ruling, it's peachy keen. Stop complaining about it. Stop. Because you could absolutely say there's reasonable suspicion that someone in that group, or many someones, could have been leaving messages or be motivated by anger to do something untoward that could end a life. Yeah. So again, if you were upset about the DOJ making lists of parents at school board meetings, then I question if you're supporting this one or not.
Well, answer or question here from the text messages from Iggy. All right, 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants in the country. What do you do to fix the problem, Bill?
Here's the thing. I disagree with Iggy with the idea of problem. Is it a problem? Is it? Really? I disagree with his assumption
amnesty?
That it's a problem. Here's the thing. This is multi-layered. Donald Trump came to us during the election with the idea of a migrant crime wave. Remember? It was that all these countries all over the world, without didn't provide any proof of this, but all these countries were releasing their criminals out of jails and even insane asylums. And they were sending them here to take advantage of the American citizen. And oddly, instead of this being a crime enforcement maneuver, it has changed to, well, these people came in illegally. Not they came here to do nasty stuff to Americans. It's weird how we've shifted the goalposts. So that's the issue I've got. I believe that there are illegal immigrants that are a problem. I believe there are other illegal immigrants in this country that are not a problem because in many times they have assimilated into the fabric of America. I am not certain that amnesty is necessarily the right way to go about it, but I do think there should be some sort of a path to citizenship for those individuals. When ICE is picking up these alleged migrant criminals over a DUI conviction that is decades old and they have nothing else on their rap sheet, I question whether or not they are the threat to the American fabric of society that we should be so concerned about. I wouldn't lump them. Maybe someone in the audience disagrees with me, but I wouldn't put them in that migrant crime threat. When I was thinking of migrant crime, the dude that's convicted of a DUI thing 10 years ago, that's not of a concern to me, especially since he hasn't had anything since then. That's happened. We've had a couple of people that have been picked up based on those parameters. I don't think that's a migrant crime issue.
It's not going to take someone in the audience. I mean, you're welcome to call in. I'll disagree, but give us a call. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. I see the Supreme Court decision as a win for common sense. We have for decades allowed people to flaunt our immigration laws, cut ahead of everybody else. And this is not just a victimless crime, even in the sense of, yeah, they may not commit some of the worst crimes. We have a city that's bankrupt. We have a state that's bankrupt because a lot of resources went to people who should have never been here in the first place. And what we've said to those people, and those kind of people, is that, yeah, don't follow the rules. Welcome to America. Are those the types of people you want as your neighbor, as your friends, as your coworkers? Their first act coming to this country was to flaunt our rules and break our laws, while good law-abiding people who get in line and wait out there are the ones that are going to have to go through the process to actually come here. Give me a break. Look, I understand the importance of immigrants to America, and the people that follow the rules and go through the right process are a gift to this country, okay? But to say that you can't enforce immigration law because of identifying where they came from, the likelihood of the language that they speak, the jobs they work, and where they live, goodness, that was progressive, woke ideology that got in the way of common sense. The U.S. Supreme Court was right to step in. All right, we'll get to your phone calls next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
We got jam-packed phone lines. Text messages are hot as well. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're discussing the win for the Trump administration. Supreme Court lifting restrictions on L.A. immigration stops. Trump kicking it back up as the ICE raids will continue. Let's go to Cheryl and Loveland. Good morning, Cheryl. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
We got you, Cheryl.
Cheryl, are you there? Hello? Are you there?
All right, we'll maybe put her on hold. Try again. Let's go to Iggy. Erie, good morning, Iggy. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Bill, unfortunately, this is a racket. Okay, this is organized political crime. Nobody wanted these people to ever come in legally because there's a lot of money being made off of it. You've got NGOs. You've got immigration lawyers. Do you have any idea what it's like to get an immigration lawyer to try to get in here? It cost at least 10 years ago up front. It was, we need a $10,000 retainer. Oh, and every time we go to court, that's $100 cash. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. And you make sure you get a receipt. Oh, you don't have a receipt? You still owe me the money. It's just a racket. I mean, you have to treat it that way. And unfortunately, to unsort this racket, it's going to get messy. I personally hired illegals, not realizing they were illegals. They had fake documents. I've worked with illegals, the hardest working people I know. My son-in-law, former son-in-law, was an illegal. I spent an afternoon with our current governor, Jared Polis, here in Erie when he had a meeting. I kind of just invited myself in and sat down. Unfortunately, I tend to do things like that sometimes. He was quite gracious to me, made an attempt to help, but my son-in-law's lawyer did not want to help. So you tell me, it's a racket.
Okay, so do you believe that rounding them up and then deporting them and sending them home is the way to solve this racket, as you say?
Well, there should have been a sieve at the border before they came in. So in other words, some people come through, some people don't, based on whatever you want. So what are you left with? You have to do that same kind of sorting process when they're inside. And unfortunately, it's not good.
But the question, you still didn't address the question of does this stop it? Because if we're looking at this being a racket, as you say, if the actions that the Trump administration are taking will not stop that racket, then should we continue doing them?
Who said they're not stopping the racket?
I asked Iggy directly, and he avoided it. So I'm assuming the answer is no.
Oh, I did not.
Yes, you did. You said we're doing this. Okay, then will this action by the Trump administration stop this racket, as you say?
It will slowly stop the racket. And we're talking, it isn't going to happen overnight because this whole problem didn't happen overnight.
And we've been deporting people for how many years out of the country, et cetera? And it didn't stop it. Yeah,
Bill, the border's not the same it was under the Biden administration. You've seen real changes there.
You've been deporting people for how many years because the problem with the open border still exists, so they come right back through. I mean,
however, the idea of the open borders, hang on, Iggy, the idea of the open borders isn't majority of the reason people are coming in here, how they get in here being illegally in the first place. There are a number of them to come in and claim asylum, whether that's real or fake, and the group that overstays visas. Those two cohorts together are larger than the people sneaking over the border. So the idea that, oh, look, we've locked down the border and now we're deporting the people fixes this racket, I disagree with. Because you're focusing on and you're finitely focused on a minority of the groups that are responsible for the illegal immigration. And I still submit that until you fundamentally change the immigration process, there is no fix. You can't stop this racket by just deporting people. You have to change the immigration process, and neither party wants to do that.
Why do we have to change it? Just because it's long?
Because the immigration process right now is an incentive for illegal immigration.
That's like saying because you can steal things, that's an incentive for theft.
No, that's not at all.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're saying because something's hard, it's going to make people want to do something illegally because they get a benefit out of it. I mean, we've set up a system, and you have people that have said, I don't care to follow it. And in your universe, that's not that big of a deal.
It is a big deal because in part of that, we see people that have, by the millions, not followed it, and we stand here and go, wonder what the problem is. Not looking at maybe it's the freaking system. Maybe that's the issue.
I don't understand why. Just
why?
Because it's hard?
No, because it's too long and it's too ponderous. And here's the idea. We've used this before on the show. If you live in another country in which you are worried about gang activity and drug activity and your kids getting caught up into that and losing them at a young age, and they are the age of 5, are you willing to wait a decade to get them into the country? Are you waiting until they're 15, or do you feel by then you might have lost them? So what's your choice?
Yeah, the weird assumptions in that scenario, one, that America is the only place you can go to, that two, that breaking the law is justified because you're going through a hard time. It's that type of thinking that put us into a place where we have 20 million people here.
No, you're missing the point here. I'm not sitting here and justifying the fact that they broke the law. I'm giving you the causal reality. And until we deal with the causation, we can't expect it to change. That's the problem I have, is that we are complaining about the leak from the plumbing in our household without looking at any of the pipes. We're not worried about the system that is set up in place that incentivizes illegal immigration.
But you haven't. The only reason you say it incentivizes illegal immigration is because it's hard.
Because it's hard, and it's too long. We obviously have a supply and demand issue on many levels.
How is our immigration system any different than any other ones? I mean, if they want to go to France, is it easier to become a French citizen than it is here in America?
Again, don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think what we've set up here is uniquely more difficult than becoming a citizen of any other country.
But we are a citizen. We pride ourselves based on capitalism, and we have a supply and demand issue, and yet we ignore it.
Go ahead, Iggy, go ahead.
Well, basically, the system is broken, and it is hard. You can't fix it because it's a racket. Too many people are making money. You got to have slaves now. You got to have those people working in your house. Oh my God, we had how many Koreans that were just busted? Illegal Koreans that were just busted in the United States working in the factory on purpose. It's a racket.
It is a racket. Iggy,
how'd they get in? They didn't sneak through the border. They didn't cross the border illegally. That's something that's been missed in the conversation.
Okay, I mean, I we'll continue the conversation. Phone lines are full. We do have one open, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. In a win for Donald Trump, the Supreme Court has lifted restrictions on L.A. immigration stops. Bottom line, can immigration officials pull together location, race, language, job they're working, in determining whether or not somebody could be stopped to be asked to provide proof of residency in the United States? Can you pull that all together and go, yeah, hey, Miguel, are you legally in this country? Progressives arguing that this is going to lead to race-based stop, frisk, and essentially, I don't want to say arrest, but as you're going to be interrogating these people simply based upon their race. That's not right in this country. Brett Kavanaugh saying, this is just common sense. These are what these officials are asked to do. Go find people that are not in this country here legally. We've allowed 20 million of them in here, and they tend to congregate in certain cities like Los Angeles, where 10% of the population is illegal. They tend to speak a certain language because a majority of them came from a particular area of the world. It's not illegal. It's not even unreasonable to allow our immigration officials to go ask these people if they're here illegally. In fact, he calls it common sense. All right, let's go to the phone lines. You want to try? Let's try Brian and Morrison. Good morning, Brian. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, it's Brian, right? You guys got me?
Yeah,
we got you.
Okay. It's Brian from Arvada, by the way. And anyway, you know, anyone that says 20 million illegal aliens in this country isn't a problem is ridiculous. Tell Lincoln Riley's mom. Tell that to the people whose apartment taken over by a gang and intimidated. Tell that to school districts whose resources are being drained because these children of these illegal aliens can't speak English. Tell that to the healthcare system who's inundated with issues that taxpayers have to pay. So that argument is just ridiculous on its face, number one.
I will point out you started with the immigrant crime issue, that migrant crime issue that Donald Trump was focusing on. Just want to point that out. Continue.
Well, that's fine. Let's target the crime, but let's also talk about the resources of this country being drained.
Are we targeting the crime?
For that?
Are we targeting the crime if we're going over and we're looking at someone based on their skin color, where they're working, and what language they're speaking? Are we really concerned about that migrant crime issue, or have we assumed guilt?
I would target it all. Target it all. Okay. I don't care if you're picking lettuce or if you're holding somebody up with a knife. I don't care. You're illegal. You got to go.
Excellent. Good job. I'm glad we cleared that up based on where you started, because you started it as if you were really, really worried about the crime. You're not. Continue.
Oh, I am worried about the crime. I'm worried about all of it. I'm worried about the school systems being resources being drained so that that legal Americans can't learn at a high rate. I'm worried about the healthcare system being drained, so I have to pay a high copay and wait forever because of people in this country illegally.
You do know the illegal migrants do contribute tax money that they don't get.
They're not migrants, Billy. They're aliens, and they're illegal.
Whatever word you want to use them, it doesn't change the fact that they contribite taxes to the tune of around $700 billion a year. It doesn't change the fact that they're murderers and some of them are rapists.
They're not. That doesn't change the fact either.
Again, Brian.
Some of them
Brian,
are.
hang on. You started out.
Some of them are.
Yeah, but hang on a sec. Just a moment ago, my friend, you started off with the idea of, oh my gosh, look at these horrible criminals doing this horrible stuff to American citizens, and then you went back. I don't care. I don't care. They're all illegal, even if they came in. And now you're back. And now Brian is back to now Brian is back to they're murderers and rapists.
It's all a problem. It's all a problem. What's wrong with that? I don't understand what's wrong with that.
No,
Brian,
he keeps changing the goalposts based on what he's worried about. That's all it is.
Some of them are, not all of them.
Then why are we not focusing on those, Brian? That's the point. I appreciate the phone call. That's the issue.
No.
We
Bill,
were sold migrant crime wave.
I don't understand why it's so hard.
Now it's just we're going to choose whether or not you're guilty based on your skin color. We were sold migrant crime wave.
We're going to ask a question. It's not that crazy. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
KNUS.